Yo, what's up, guys? It's Noah here, breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Monday, January the 13th. We're going to go through this Monday slate position by position. We got 7 games for today. We're going to talk through each position, just hit on some plays that I see looking at this slate the night before, giving some of my early thoughts, just taking a first look at the slate. We will talk about Draftkings pricing. We'll look at Yahoo pricing as well, cover 5 plays that I specifically like for each site. We'll take a look at some totals that we have right now. Right now, there's only one game on the slate that has a total, at least as of Sunday night. There's a lot of injuries we're going to have to watch heading into Monday, and it seems like just lately, man, the injuries have been crazy in terms of just guys being questionable heading into the slate. Like, you can already see with me just scrolling down, there's a lot of red Qs, there's a lot of Os, just a lot of questionable guys that are already out. So we will talk through the injuries once we go through each position, pretty much like the key injuries we need to watch. Just before we do get started, guys, as always, would greatly appreciate it if you would drop a like down below. If you are new to the channel, if this is your first time checking out a video on my channel, thank you so much for clicking on the video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below so that way you never miss out on any of my new uploads. You can click the notification bell. If you do click the notification bell, that will notify you every time I upload. Also, if you want, you can follow me on Twitter at DFS by Noah. Link to my Twitter account is down below in the description. Also, down in the description is my Patreon, where I offer a ton of exclusive NBA content. I do post NBA content over on Patreon Monday through Friday. I have an article that I write Monday through Friday. It's usually pretty in-depth, 6 to 8, sometimes 10 pages long, depending on how many games there are. Going through all my favorite plays at each position, talking through the guys that I like the most, why I like them for that slate. I also give updated core plays over on Patreon. And then I post a video in the afternoon where I kind of break down the slate again, talk through roster construction, how I'm looking to approach lineup builds for that night slate. If you want to check out all that content I have to offer, link to my Patreon is down below in the description. You can see all the NBA content that I do have to offer over there. You can get in our Discord chat where we're talking through the slate throughout the day up until lock. I'm answering questions, just trying to help you guys build out the best lineups that you can. But anyways, let's go ahead and look at point guard for today's 7-game slate. We'll start off at the top with LeBron James, where he is really cheap on DraftKings today. Only $9,500 after missing the Lakers' last game. I think it was a Saturday game. Didn't play any NBA DFS on Saturday. I was busy Saturday, but I know LeBron did not play. Anthony Davis was also out. For some reason, and I tweeted this out on Twitter, for some reason, whenever guys miss games, whenever they're on the next slate, their price tag is always so much cheaper than it should be. Like LeBron was $11K on, I think that was Thursday night slate or maybe Friday night slate. I can't remember. I think it was Friday night against the Mavericks. Yeah, that was Friday night. Friday night against the Mavericks, LeBron played without Anthony Davis. AD was out Friday. Played 32 minutes, had 69 DraftKings points. He was $11K on Friday night. Didn't play Saturday, and now on Monday's slate, he's $9,500 for some reason. Doesn't really make any sense to me, especially in a matchup against the Cavs. If we look at defensive rating this season, Cavs, a terrible defensive team, ranked 29th in defensive rating. LeBron's probable today, so he's expected to play. Anthony Davis, on the other hand, is questionable, and that'll be big news that we need to watch throughout the day. Honestly, since it's a matchup against the Cavs, I'm assuming AD doesn't play tonight. Hopefully we get some word after shoot-around or something if he's in or out, or get an update on his status. I'm going into this slate assuming AD's out, which makes me love LeBron at his DraftKings price of $9,500. On Yahoo, he's actually pretty expensive at $55, but I think if Anthony Davis is out today, LeBron's worth that salary. His numbers with AD off the floor, you guys know, his numbers are already really good this season, but we can look at him with AD off the floor. Pull up the usage. His usage rate's over 36. I think it's 37%. Averages 1.6 fantasy points per minute. Yeah, so 430 minutes played this season with AD off the floor. 37.5% usage rate for LeBron. 1.64 fantasy points per minute. We'll look at the assist percentage. Has a near 42% assist percentage. Look at the rebound percentage. Total rebound percentage near 14%. His numbers just see a big boost with AD off the floor. And given the matchup today against Cleveland, a game they should easily win, I wouldn't be surprised if AD sits tonight. So I like LeBron. Even if AD plays, $9,500 for LeBron is just incredibly cheap. He should never be this cheap, especially in a matchup against the Cavs. But then you have guys like Dame Lillard, Zach LaVine, Ben Simmons. These are definitely guys you could look to. Ben Simmons, I do have some interest in, especially since we know Joel Embiid's going to be out for a decent amount of time. If we look at the Yahoo pricing, Lillard's 43, you got Simmons at 40, and if we go over to shooting guard, that's where LaVine is, and he's 37. So LaVine's actually a little bit cheaper than Lillard and Simmons. I think Yahoo pricing and Draftkings pricing, Simmons is probably my favorite guy to go to at 8,200. But I just feel that if I'm paying up at point guard today, I'm probably just going to be going to LeBron at 9,500. I think LeBron's price tag on DraftKings, even on Yahoo, it's arguably way too low, especially DraftKings, though. 9,500 for LeBron, way too cheap today. In this mid-range, you do have some good options here. I think Kemba, even in a tough matchup against the Bulls, 7,200 for Kemba is a little bit too cheap. Pace-up spot for these Charlotte guards. If I'm going to target one of them, it's probably going to be Devontae Graham. So Graham you could also look to in a pace-up matchup against Portland at 7,300. If Drew Holiday remains out, I really like Lonzo Ball at 6,900. Just like the last 4 or 5 games with Drew Holiday out, Lonzo has put up over 40 DraftKings points in 3 of his last 4 games. 6,900, I mean, Lonzo probably projects for like 36 minutes today and probably like 38 to 40 DraftKings points. I mean, 6,900 is way too cheap for him, especially if Drew Holiday is going to remain out. Lonzo's been over a fantasy point per minute player this season with Holiday off the floor. He's playing huge minutes right now. Even in a blowout against Boston, he still played 33 minutes, 38 minutes, 37 minutes in competitive games. Like, I expect Lonzo probably plays 36 to 38 minutes today. He's honestly my favorite mid-range guy to go to at 6,900. Chris Paul you could also look to at 6,600. Definitely like this pace-up matchup for these OKC guys against Minnesota. Minnesota's 4th in pace this season. OKC ranks towards the bottom of the league, I believe, 22nd in pace. So this is a good spot for these OKC guys. If I'm going to target one of them, it's probably going to be Chris Paul at 6,600. So I do like him in that mid-range. SGA, obviously, you could look to as well. CJ McCollum, his price tag really stands out on DraftKings, only 6,100. Like, I rarely play CJ McCollum when Damian Lillard's healthy. Like, I don't think I've played CJ McCollum at all this season when Lillard's active. But whenever Lillard's out, that's usually when I get my exposure to CJ. But now his price has gotten to a point where I think he's actually a pretty good play, even with Lillard expected to play today, and most likely, I mean, with Lillard going to play today. McCollum's still been a fantasy point per minute player this season. He's playing big minutes, like 36, 38 minutes in close games. It's a really good matchup against a bad Hornets team. Hornets team that is towards the bottom of the league in defensive rating. The Hornets ranked 28th in defensive rating on the season. I actually like CJ McCollum quite a bit at his DraftKings salary of 6,100. If I can find a way to maybe get up to some of these mid-range guys like Lonzo, Chris Paul, like I think these guys give you a little bit more upside than McCollum. But right now, there's not a lot of value that I see on DraftKings. Obviously, that could change, especially if Anthony Davis is out. That could open up some value. But not knowing his status, I like McCollum quite a bit in that mid-range at 6,100. His DraftKings price definitely stands out. But then one of the values I do like on DK is Jeff Teague. So Jeff Teague's only 4,900 on DraftKings. So just the last 3 games since he's returned from injury, last 4 games since returning from injury, he's played 17, 29, 25, and 22 minutes off the bench. The game against Cleveland, that was his first game back from injury, so 17 minutes, I don't think you're not going to get that from Teague most nights. And then last game against Houston, they lost that game by 30 points, so Teague only played 22 minutes. I think most nights, even coming off the bench, Teague's going to play anywhere from 26 to 30 minutes off the bench. Especially if Karl-Anthony Towns remains out, I do have a ton of interest in Jeff Teague. He's been a fantasy point per minute player this season with Karl-Anthony Towns off the floor. 4,900, like this guy easily projects for probably close to 26, 28 DraftKings points. If he's going to play like 26 to 28 minutes, if not more, he projects really well for a $4,900 salary. With him coming off a dud game in his last game, I don't think people are going to look to Jeff Teague today. I actually like him quite a bit as a value option, especially if Towns remains out. I think there's upside for Teague at this salary. So I like him quite a bit on DK at 4,900 as a value. Darius Garland I want to talk about over on Yahoo. So you could go to Teague. He's $18 or $16 on Yahoo. But just building out the Yahoo 5, once you plug in the 5 plays, it's not going to leave you a ton of salary left. So I do want to try and give as much value as I can. So we'll save the $2 on Yahoo. Instead of going with Teague, we'll go with Darius Garland at 14. Garland's playing really solid minutes right now, and that's one of the main reasons I like him today. I mean, just the last 6 games, he's played at least like 34 minutes, pretty much in like 3, 6, and 7 straight games, Garland's played at least 34 minutes. Like, he's just getting huge run right now. Dante Exum is an injury to watch. He's questionable heading into Monday. If he sits, I expect Garland continues to play massive minutes. It's a matchup against the Lakers, which isn't great. The Lakers are a really good defensive team, but Garland's just so cheap on Yahoo. He gets so much run, or he's getting so much run right now. Even if this game blows out, I think it's still possible that Darius Garland plays in a blowout. So $14, he feels very safe at that salary. I think he can easily give you 25 to 30 fantasy points today, just given that he's playing nearly 40 minutes right now. The value looks really good on Yahoo, so I do like him quite a bit. It's just an early look value play. But arguably, one of the top value plays on the slate will be Rajon Rondo, depending on what happens with Anthony Davis. Rondo had a monster game on Saturday with both Davis and LeBron out. Played 33 minutes, had 51 DraftKings points. I did like him quite a bit on Friday night slate. He did play 24 minutes, which is encouraging, but he wasn't very productive, only finishing with 19 DraftKings points. If AD's out, I think Rondo at 3,900 against the Cavs is in play as a value option. But we'll just kind of have to wait and see there. So let's go ahead and move on to shooting guard now. At this position, not much to love at the top for me. Rozier you could go to. Wiggins, they're fine plays, but I don't love them today. D Rose, his price is starting to come up on DraftKings, so he's not like a core play for me by any means. SGA, I think, is a good option in this mid-range at 6,300 if you want to go to him. In the 5K range, you got Schroeder as well. You could target from OKC. I do like these OKC guys today in a pace-up matchup against the Timberwolves. You got the New Orleans injuries we're going to have to watch. Right now, Derek Favors is questionable. I believe J.J. Redick is questionable as well. With Redick out last game, that just opened up even more minutes for guys like Josh Hart. We saw Nickeil Alexander-Walker get some run off the bench. Hart's price has come up on DraftKings. I mean, he's up to 5,300, but he's still playing big minutes right now. With Drew Holiday out, he's starting right now and playing 32 to 34 minutes a night. You could go to him in this mid-range. I don't love like any of these mid-range plays though. Like none of them stand out as core plays for me. Terrence Ross, we'll talk about on Yahoo. That's where I have a lot of interest in him today. 5K on DraftKings, like you don't need to go to Terrence Ross at this salary. Obviously, he could go for 30 DraftKings points and be a good play at 5K. But on Yahoo, I think that's where I have the most interest in him. If we go over to Yahoo's pricing, he's only $11 at shooting guard. He's near minimum salary over there. If I'm going to go cheap at shooting guard, which I'll most likely be doing, I don't love a lot of the spend-up options. Like Wiggins, SGA, you could go to at 28. I have a feeling, though, I'm probably going to be going cheap. Richardson, I do like at 20 with Embiid still out. He's been playing really well with Embiid out. But Ross definitely stands out $11 on Yahoo. He's just getting a lot of run right now off the bench. We'll have to watch some injuries here. Like Orlando does have a couple guys questionable. DJ Augustine's questionable. Aaron Gordon's questionable. We know that Jonathan Isaac is going to remain out. Just the last few games, though, off the bench. Ross, he's played about 25 to 27 minutes. I expect that's what he gets today. If Augustine remains out, like Augustine didn't play on Friday, and we saw Terrence Ross get 32 minutes, which is like the most he's played all season, it's possible that he gets 30 to 32 minutes again if Augustine's out. But if Augustine plays, Ross probably goes back down to like 25 to 27 minutes. Still, he's been about a 0.85 fantasy point per minute player this season. He's going to get the minutes off the bench. It's likely that he closes out the game, just given that like they don't have Isaac out there to close. I like Ross quite a bit as a value play on Yahoo, just kind of like an early look value. $11, he definitely stands out. DK at 5K, you could probably look elsewhere today. You don't have to go to him. But if Redick and Holiday both remain out, Nickeil Alexander-Walker still 3,500 on DraftKings. We saw him get 23 minutes off the bench last game with both those guys out against Boston. Wasn't very productive with just 15 DK points, but if he's going to play 24, 25 minutes off the bench, I mean, Alexander-Walker's been a high usage player, a fantasy point per minute player. I like going to him as a value, but that'll just be news we have to wait and see. Dwayne Bacon, I know, has been getting a lot of run off the bench. He had a big game Sunday night. That game against the Suns just finished as I'm starting this video. I know Bacon closed out that game over Terry Rozier. Like, who knows if that happens most nights, but, I mean, he's 3,300. Pace-up matchup against Portland. I guess you could target him in GPPs. But that is a very hard rotation to predict right now. Just, like, if a guy gets hot, they'll just run him out there over. Like, if Rozier is really struggling and Bacon is hot off the bench, like, Bacon will just play more than Rozier. So it's a tough rotation to predict for sure. Probably on a 7-game slate might just be a situation to avoid overall. But small forward, moving on to this position, Brandon Ingram definitely stands out as small forward on DraftKings, 8,100 on DK today. He had a tough matchup against Boston. Bad game. His or his price on that slate was 8,400. His price plummeted on DK for some reason. I mean, he was 8,400 against Utah and put up 56 DK points. Price went up a little bit against the Bulls, had a monster game, 61 DK points, put up 51 against the Knicks. He was 9,200. Then he got a tough matchup against Boston, and his price went down to 8,400. He disappointed in that game. Now he gets a much better spot here against the Pistons, and he's 8,100 today. If Drew Holiday remains out, I think you can definitely target Brandon Ingram, especially at his DK salary. We can look at usage this season, but Brandon Ingram, he's been like the main guy on this Pelicans team just this season. He leads the team in usage. He's been really productive with Drew Holiday off the floor. He's got a 30% usage rate with Holiday off the floor this season. He's played 454 minutes with him off. 27% assist percentage, 11% total rebound percentage, averaging 1.32 fantasy points per minute. So really solid numbers from Brandon Ingram. I think you can definitely target him at 8,100. Choosing between him and Ben Simmons, it is very close between those two guys. I think right now, if Holiday's out, I'd prefer Brandon Ingram. If Holiday winds up playing, I'd take Ben Simmons over Ingram. Jason Tatum's in a great matchup against the Bulls. They're definitely a team you can attack with power forwards and centers, just bigs overall. But his price is so close to Ingram and Simmons that I would just rather play those two guys. Harris, I think, is a fine guy to go to in this mid-range, especially while Embiid remains out. Richardson as well. Between Richardson and Harris, I'd prefer to go to Harris just because Harris is more productive. But I don't feel like either guy are going to be like core plays for me today. Looking in like the 5K range, if AD's out, you can definitely play Kyle Kuzma. He's been absolutely killing it lately with AD off the floor. He's been getting big minutes as well. The last two games that Davis has missed, he's played 34 and 40 minutes, 37, 46 Draftkings points. Like, he'd probably project for about 32 minutes today and probably 30 to 35 DK points, somewhere in that range. 5,900 against the Cavs. You could definitely look to Kuzma if AD's out. Carmelo Anthony really stands out on DraftKings. His price of 5,400 definitely sticks out, especially in a matchup against the Hornets, a team that you can target with power forwards and centers. So I do like Anthony at his, or Melo at his mid-range salary on DK, 5,400. But then for value at small forward, you got Ross, who I talked about earlier, you could target. Other than that, though, there's probably not much value here. I'm pretty sure that Etuan Moore started on Saturday against Boston, but he didn't have that great of a game. Just 22 DK points in 28 minutes. His price is up to 4,500 as well, so not a great value by any means. I guess Cedi Osman you could target 4K against the Lakers. Like, he's just going to play huge minutes. He's not a very productive player, but the minutes are going to be there. Kind of similar to Darius Garland. Like, these Cavs guys aren't great point-per-minute players, but they're going to play huge minutes, so that puts them in play for me, especially while they remain really cheap. But that's probably it for small forward. Let's go ahead and move on to power forward now. We'll talk about power forward. So looking at power forward today, you got Anthony Davis at the top for 9,400 against Cleveland. Obviously, if Anthony Davis plays, 9,400, very similar to LeBron. 9,400 is way too cheap of a price tag for Anthony Davis if he's fully healthy. I assume he's going to be out since he's been out the last few games. It's a game against the Cavs that they should easily win. I'd assume Davis remains out, so I'm going into the slate assuming he doesn't play. If he does, you could target him at 9,400, but honestly, I'd probably rather just play LeBron for just $100 more, given that both guys are like similar salaries. LeBron's been a little bit better on a point-per-minute basis this season. Both guys would be in play for me, though, especially given that we don't have like those elite studs on this slate. There's no James Harden, no Giannis, no Luka. Most expensive guy on the slate is Karl-Anthony Towns, and we honestly don't even know if he's going to play today. But then other power forwards, Sabonis in a tough spot against Philly. He's a fine guy to go to, but don't love him at 8,600. I'd probably rather play Brandon Ingram for a little bit cheaper. Ben Simmons also you could look to for a little bit cheaper. Sabonis is questionable, and he winds up being a late scratch on Friday, so this will be something to watch. I'm assuming he plays today since he was going to play Friday, or at least he was expected to play before he got scratched. I'm assuming he plays, but obviously that'll be something to monitor. Al Horford I do like quite a bit. Now that Embiid's out, Horford's just been way more productive. Last two games with Embiid out, 42 and 38 DraftKings points, 32, 33 minutes. Been a fantasy point-per-minute player this season with Embiid off the floor. He's getting starts at center where he's much more productive. The Pacers have been a team you can attack with bigs this season, with centers specifically. I'm pretty sure they've allowed like the 6th or 7th most fantasy points to centers on the season. Horford's, I know he's really cheap on Yahoo. Over here he's $25 at power forward. You could definitely play him over on Yahoo. Anthony looks really good over on Yahoo as well at just $20. But I do like Horford today. Kevin Love you could target as well. Tough matchup against the Lakers, but his price tag has really come down on DraftKings, down to 6,700. I mean, I don't know why the price has come down. I mean, he's been playing very well recently. I guess price kind of baked down for the matchup. Obviously, there's risk here of the game blowing out, but I think if Anthony Davis is out, we know LeBron should play. He's probable. If AD's out, I think it's possible the game still stays close, or the game has a much higher probability of staying close if AD is out today. So would have some interest in Kevin Love, given his price tag on DraftKings is coming down quite a bit. But then other power forwards, you got Kuzma you could play if AD's out. Favors will be a big injury to watch here. He's questionable. Didn't play on Saturday. Even if he plays today, you could target him at 5,600, but I don't love Favors. Like his minutes have been down recently, which is a concern. He hasn't been nearly as productive recently as well. They're going to need some size out there against Andre Drummond, so if Favors starts and he's not limited, I assume he gets the minutes, but like they could play Jackson Hayes. They've been giving Jackson Hayes a lot of run off the bench when Favors has been active. Hayes started the last game on Saturday and played really well. So even if Favors is good to go, like he's not like a core play for me. Melo I like quite a bit at 5,400 you could target. For value though at power forward, there's really not much value here. If Aaron Gordon remains out, you could go to Keem Birch. He's only 4,300. He's played 29 and 30 minutes the last two games. Even with Gordon healthy in that game against Washington, Keem Birch still got the start in that game and played 29 minutes. I'm assuming he starts today. Even if Gordon plays, I think Birch will probably start at the 4 and they'll move Gordon to the 3. That's what they did in that game against Washington. Now, if Gordon's out and you get Birch starting at the 4 without Gordon, he is a little bit more productive, so I would have a little bit more interest in him if Gordon's out. If Gordon plays, just a fine value. Hopefully better value will open up, though, as the day goes on because, I mean, he's not a core play for me by any means. But I don't think there's any really cheap plays at power forward you could really look to. Like, I know Mike Scott started the other day, but he didn't really do that great. 23 minutes, 21 DraftKings points. Against Indy, like we saw, I think it was earlier this season, they played Indy when Joel Embiid was out, and they started Kyle O'Quinn. Because Indy plays so big with both Miles Turner and Sabonis on the floor, like we could potentially see Kyle O'Quinn draw a start today. Who knows if that happens, but I mean, he's 4,300. If he were to start, he could be in play. He hasn't played since December 31st, so who knows? Like, if he doesn't start, I don't want to play him. So that's just going to be a wait and see. 7 o'clock game, so we will know the Pacers, or we will know the Sixers starting lineup before lock. I wouldn't be surprised if they, like, start O'Quinn at center, or if they maybe start somebody big at power forward. Like, I just feel like they might do that given this matchup against a big Pacers team. But let's talk about center now just before we end the video. So you got Towns at the top. Who knows if he plays? If he plays, he's a fine option, but not like a core play for me by any means. I'm just going into this slate assuming he's out since he's been out the last, 10, 12 games. Drummond we'll talk about, though. 10,300 against the Pelicans. I do like Drummond quite a bit here. I know he got ejected on Saturday, I believe it was. Didn't play any NBA DFS on Saturday, but I did see the notification on Twitter that Drummond was ejected. Pretty sure he was like really popular on Saturday's slate as well. He only played 19 minutes. He was really struggling in those 19 minutes, so it wasn't like he was crushing and then he got ejected. Like, he was really struggling and then he got ejected. Just puts like fuel to the fire. I mean, not really great there, but really good spot for Drummond again today. 10,300 against the Pelicans. We know how good this like matchup is to target guys against the Pelicans. They're 7th in pace this season. Looking at defensive rating, they're 26th in defensive rating. This is a matchup we like to target, so I do like Drummond quite a bit. I would prefer to go to LeBron, though, especially if AD's out. Like, LeBron's my top play on the slate at 9,500. But Drummond would be my second favorite stud to go to at 10-3. But I don't think I'm going to get to, like, a ton of Drummond today because I really like Hassan Whiteside in this matchup against the Hornets. And he's over $2,000 cheaper than Drummond. So we will talk about Whiteside. This is a smash spot for Whiteside against the Hornets. This is a matchup I've targeted all season. Centers against the Hornets, centers against the Bulls. I talk about in, like, every video. This is a spot where Whiteside could easily go for 20 and 20 with like 5-6 blocks. If we just look at the numbers this season, this Hornets team, like I said earlier, terrible defensively. They rank 28th in defensive rating. If you look at rebound percentage, they've been one of the worst rebounding teams in the league, 27th in rebound percentage. Like Whiteside should be able to dominate in this matchup, should be able to kill this Hornets team on the glass. They just have no answer for him. Like I think he puts up over 50 DraftKings points today. I don't even think that's a hot take. Whiteside at 8,200 in this matchup is one of my favorite plays on the slate. On Yahoo, he's a little bit cheaper than Drummond as well. He's $7 cheaper than Drummond. I like the savings in playing Whiteside over him. I think Whiteside could easily outscore Drummond today. in this matchup. So he's my favorite center on the slate and just one of my favorite plays overall. Love this spot for Whiteside. I think he dominates this Hornets front court. You look at like any sort of DVP stats, and Hornets been one of the worst defensive teams versus centers this season. But then other centers we could look to, if Sabonis is out, you could definitely target Miles Turner. Miles Turner had a monster game on Friday once Sabonis got ruled out. I did swap to a lot of Miles Turner in my lineups. He had a monster game against the Bulls, 56 DraftKings points in 33 minutes, had 27 points, 14 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, and 1 steal. Like, his numbers look much better, or his numbers, if you just look at usage and his fantasy point per minute production, they look much better, and they are better when Sabonis is off the floor. It's not a great matchup against the Sixers, but if we're going to get Turner playing without Sabonis, he is definitely in play for me, even at a $7K price tag. On Yahoo, he's only $23, so I really like him over there. Tristan Thompson, I didn't talk about on DraftKings. Like, his price is way up on DK. $7,500, I'll probably look elsewhere today, but Yahoo at $23, you could definitely target Tristan Thompson. The dude's been balling recently, had a monster game against Detroit, 45 minutes played, 66 fantasy points. Even in a tough matchup against Denver, 37 minutes, 38 minutes, 37 fantasy points. I do like Thompson specifically on Yahoo. DraftKings at $7,500, you can probably look elsewhere. Love, I talked about. I like him in this matchup, or not in the matchup, but just his price has come down. I don't love the matchup for him, but the price is really cheap. Horford, though, I do like now that he's starting at center without Embiid. Gorgie Jang, you could definitely target if Towns is out. His price has come down quite a bit on DraftKings. Very inconsistent player, but the upside is definitely there for Gorgie Jang, especially if Towns remains out. So I do like going to him. But the guy that I want to talk about in this mid-range, probably one of my favorite center plays, not named Hassan Whiteside. I love Enes Kanter today in this matchup against the Bulls. He's only $5,400 on DraftKings. So this season, we've seen Enes Kanter play about 20 to 22 minutes off the bench most nights. A lot of that has to do with Daniel Tice getting a bunch of run at center as well. We know that Tice starts at center and plays about 20 to 22 minutes. But today, Tice is questionable, which is going to be a big injury to watch. This is an early game, a 7:30 game, so we should know this, or we should get this news before lock. We'll probably get an update after shoot-around, and we'll know if Tice is in or out. If Daniel Tice is out and we get Enes Kanter starting at center against the Bulls, he's one of my favorite plays on today's slate. $5,400 on DraftKings, really nicely priced. On Yahoo, he's $20. Still love him a ton over there as well. This is another matchup. I talked about it. I love targeting centers against the Hornets. I love targeting centers against the Bulls as well. Bulls are also a terrible rebounding team. We look at rebound percentage this season. The Bulls ranked 28th in rebound percentage. We saw Kanter was able to dominate against them earlier this season. Only played 22 minutes off the bench. Still had 38 DraftKings points. Had 17 and 12 with 2 blocks and 1 steal against the Bulls. If Tice winds up being out today, I think instead of getting 20 to 22 minutes from Kanter off the bench, I think he starts and plays about 26 to 28 minutes. In that case, I would have a lot of interest in him, just given how productive of a player he's been this season. Kanter's a guy that averages like 1.2, 1.3 fantasy points per minute. Very productive player. Great matchup. Chance to get more minutes today with Tice questionable. So love me some Enes Kanter. One of my favorite values at the center position if you are looking to go cheap. But that's probably it for center. I guess if Favors is out, you could look to Jackson Hayes. He's still really cheap, $4,600 on DraftKings. He would be in play as a value option. But that's probably it for me for center today, guys, and I think that's it for today's video. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully it was very helpful to you. If you did enjoy, make sure you drop a like down below. Before you get out of here, I would greatly appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. Hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell so that way you get notified every time I upload. Also, you can follow me on Twitter, link down below. Very active over on Twitter, so if you want to give me a follow over there at DFS by Noah, feel free to do so. Also, you can check out all the exclusive content I have to offer on Patreon. My Patreon is linked down in the description as well, patreon.com/DFS by Noah. I post NBA content over there Monday through Friday. I'm still putting up NFL content on the weekends as well for the NFL slates. Once NFL season is over, though, it'll be full NBA, just all NBA content Monday through Friday. So check out the stuff I have to offer on Patreon. We are getting very close to 75 Patreons, and once we do hit that number, I will be running another free roll on Patreon, which I'll discuss more once we eventually wind up hitting that goal, or if we do hit that goal, which I assume we will. I'll discuss more of that, or I'll talk more about that in the future, but you guys remember I ran a $100 free roll for the Christmas Day slate. I will be running another one of those in the future once we get to 75 Patreons over there. all my Patreon members will get access to that free roll. So check out the Patreon, get in there so you can get access to the free roll. We'll be hitting that goal very soon. Possibly we could even hit it tomorrow, which would be awesome. But thank you guys again for all the support. Love you guys. Thanks for supporting the YouTube. Thank you for supporting my Patreon content. I greatly appreciate it, guys. Good luck on tonight's slate, and we'll see you in tomorrow's video. Peace.